Okay.
Let me know when you see it, Charles.
Okay. We on now.
All right.
Everybody share it.
Yeah. Y'all can check your pages to see if it's on.
Somebody might
Oh,
need to mute their phone. Somewhere.
okay, somebody's got feedback in the background.
That's me. Hold on.
Okay. All right. Can everybody see and hear well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Charles? And
I'm good. I'm
Okay.
here.
All right. All right. All right. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. I still hear some feedback in the background. Did everybody get a chance to share on their page?
Yes.
I did.
Okay. Arnell, you
Yep.
There's somebody
Yep.
else. I think somebody may have Facebook open on another device, and I think I hear the echo when it's from it.
Okay.
I need to
Somebody
turn
has
the volume
Facebook
down.
open. Just turn the volume off.
Yeah.
If you have your Facebook open, just turn the volume off.
Should I turn my phone volume up?
If you're not turn the volume on your phone down. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're on live on Facebook Live, you gotta turn the volume. So
Okay, so mine is then off.
Okay.
okay, I think that was
I
it.
think that's better now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. All right. So CC, Pastor CC, can you lead us in prayer as we open up, please?
Sure. Father God, in the name of Jesus, we thank you once again for this chat group. We thank you, Lord, that you've given us the wisdom and discernment and ability to share what we've gained through your word and our life experiences. God, we ask that you anoint each speaker to say what is in their heart, but to have words of wisdom that will guide other people into successful relationships. We thank you and we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Well, everybody, welcome to the chat tonight. We have our usual suspects, and we have a guest in the building with us tonight, a very new face. Just met her today and already bonded. So, Arnell, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Welcome to the platform. We're really grateful to have you with us.
My name is Arnell M. Cruz, and I'm a relationship advisor. So I do have a page on Facebook called Relationship Advice Hour by Arnell Cruz, and I have over 9,000 followers. I've been doing it for a while because I felt that one of the most important thing is relationship. A lot of people want to be in relationship and they do not understand what it takes to keep a relationship. I mean, in the process, kids can get hurt because I mean, when you start to make kids in that relationship and the relationship get broken, now the kid is broken and they do not even know the certainty of their future. So I created that page to help, people when they come together to understand why loving each other is important, why commitment is important, why being loyal to one another is important because it's not so much about you because when kids get involved, their lives are affected if the relationship is not good. So I did that to help family and friends and everybody else. And then also I'm a writer, so I wrote my book. It's called Survivor of Arnell, a girl from Africa. And I wrote about my life because I had a very difficult life. And I realized that other people can learn from me and they can make changes as well. And people don't have to make the same mistake I did. And also, I talk about the war in my country as well. And, when people hear war, they think it's some movies or something. And it's not a movie, it's people lives, it's reality. And you never know how bad war is unless you experience one,
Mm-hmm.
so people don't know. So I wrote about that and I wrote to educate people on what it means to be a refugee, because I lived the life of a refugee in other African countries, and I came to Canada as a refugee, you know. And when someone opened that door to you to be safe, it's almost like heaven, it because you can now be safe and don't worry that someone's gonna kill you or rape you, like you are safe and people don't understand that. So in my book, I talk about a lot of stuff, and when I created a relationship page, because my mom was a single mom and our lives got affected because our father was never involved. So I created a page to help people in general and parents, how to communicate with their kids, and then adults who are in relationship, how to communicate with one another, love each other, and help create a better society by creating an environment that's healthy for kids.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you with us. We truly are excited to have you on with us tonight. So welcome. We got Bruce in the building, Jason in the building, CC in the building, and of course our honored co-host, Mr. Dixon.
All right, all right, all right.
Right, all right. So you guys, last night, definitely wanted to apologize for last night. We had a hiccup with our technical part of our show, which prohibited us from being able to execute the collaboration that we had set forth. So we're definitely going to make that up to you guys and definitely have one in the upcoming future. We'll keep you posted on that. So again, sorry about that last night. I still got a lot of messages about us not being able to do the collaboration, but the show was still a success even though we weren't able to do the collaboration. So definitely look for us to be back with a collaboration with Unique Perspective Love Talk Radio in the near future.
Absolutely.
Amen to that.
So I'm going to go ahead and read the narrative and we're going to jump right into the topic for tonight. It's called Dating and Love from a Distance.
So, you hear the feedback? Do you hear the feedback? I hear.
Yeah.
I hear some feedback coming from somebody's end, but I can't tell where it's coming from.
Okay.
Oftentimes in life, we truly do not know how our love life will play out. We imagine a person of certain height, age, race, religion, and the like. Yet we don't think about what it takes, about the possibility that that person can actually live on the other side of the world, or if we even understand or I can identify with how it will affect our life if this is indeed the case. Yet this does happen every day. We meet people while on vacation, visiting with family, or even handling business. And when our lives cross, so does the attraction. After communicating, you find that that person lives nowhere near you, yet for whatever reason, you want to explore what life would be like if they existed in your world. How do you decide if the distance is worth it? Can a healthy, exclusive relationship survive or exist in a long distance equation? And how do you keep the spice when you can't see or touch your person on a regular basis? Dating while loving from a distance. How do we handle styles that separate us? So this came from as a matter of fact, the reason why this show came about was because a friend of mine met somebody when they were on vacation in Israel. I think they're way in Israel. And so they literally saw the person saw them, and they've been together ever since. So you can imagine one is in the States, one is in Israel, and they have to make this relationship work from literally across the world. How in the world can we make this happen? But for some reason, in that moment in time, they believed that that person was intended for them to cross their path and for them to build a core relationship. So now, fast forward 2 years later, they're engaged, and the one that lives in Israel is working on getting all his stuff together so he can come over to the States so they can be married and build their life here together, which I thought was really, really cool. So we had lots of conversations about what transpired within the scope of that relationship. And so I did ask everybody who was on the show tonight, have they had any kind of experience with any kind of distance in relationships and how that has affected them and how did they make that work? So that's the question at hand, you guys, is how do you make it work when you love somebody and there are millions, they could be hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away, or clear across the world? How do you make it work?
Well, there has to be a foundation first, and that has to be with trust. okay? Because without trust, that relationship is not going to work because, I mean, the distance is too far. You don't know who the person is saying or who they're talking to. So both of you got to trust one another. There has to be loyalty, okay? When both of you are loyal to each other, there is going to be no form of cheating. So that's going to build security, and it's going to build a bridge that's going to be strong enough to connect the both of you because you know that the both of you are loyal. And honesty, too. Honesty is another big part in maintaining that distant relationship. Knowing that the person will tell you the truth at all times, even if they're wrong, they're gonna tell you they're wrong. That is gonna help build that bridge and make it stronger. But if there's no trust, there's no honesty, there's no loyalty, and most especially commitment, knowing that the person is committed to commitment is not just about the person sleeping with you sexually. It's about the person telling you, I'm going to call you at 6 o'clock and make sure
Right.
at 6 o'clock they're
Right.
calling you, you
Right.
know, or I'm going to text you at this time, or I'm going to send you a photo. Like whatever they promise to do for you, they should make sure that they are committed to that. That is
Mm.
going to build that bridge, that is going to
Right.
hold that relationship because especially for the person to be that distant, you are looking forward to that every little detail. It could be like a hello or I miss you. You are looking forward to that. If the person doesn't do it on the time they said they're going to do it, you somehow start to ask questions. You know,
And that's
One of the
where
other things,
the breakdown of
That's
trust
good. That's
happens.
good. Yeah.
That's where the breakdown of trust happens because you believe in what they're telling you, and if you can't rely on them from a distance, then you're definitely not going to be able to rely on them when you're in the same space. So it
Mm.
definitely has everything to do with communication and just telling the person, even if you're not going to be able to execute that commitment in that moment that you stated that you would, but say something to them. Say, hey, I'm not going to be able to do it right now. I'm going to have to call you in 2 hours or whatever the case might be, but keep it to where that person knows and they can depend on you to execute what you said that you're going to execute for them. So that's really good stuff. Bruce, talk to us.
You know, the only time I had that kind of laser focus is when I was in prison.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Let me say that again,
You
because
being
I like
honest.
staring stuff up. The last time I had that kind of laser focus, I
Wow.
only had a half hour on the phone.
Wow.
So when I told her, this is maybe like 30, 35 years ago, when I told her I was going to call at 6 o'clock, I needed you by that phone at 6 o'clock
Mm-hmm.
because I only had a half hour. So I say that to say, many years later and much prosperity later, in my manhood, I like to have a little bit more control over my environment. And I have a plate that is full in my life. Understand where I'm going? I have a plate that is full. I have a life that is abundant. So I'm sorry, sister. I ain't gonna be able to call you at 6 o'clock all the time if I say I am.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we need to have some things in place in which I can see you on a regular.
Mm-hmm.
I understand if we're in our 20s or we fresh out of college or something like that, we could do that. But as adults, depending upon the stage of life you are in,
Mm-hmm.
as a man, I'm gonna need us to do some big boy, big girl things.
My Lord.
Mm.
My
Mm.
Lord.
This is a relationship.
All right. That's good. That's good. Mr. Dixon, it looks like your wheels are spinning over there, Mr. Dixon. Enlighten
That's,
us.
I'm just basking in Mr. Bruce, but I tell you, all right. So, all
Did
right.
he did he
Did
did
I,
he
did
touch
I,
it? Did he
did I
touch it when he
shock you,
said the
big
big
bro?
boy? Did he touch it when he said the big boy, big girl ministries?
I'm
yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah.
okay, so here's thoughts. Certainly, when someone is considering long distance, I mean, if you have to put your most sincere mental effort forward, as in not playing any games, right? If you're not
Absolutely.
built for it, just say you're not built for it. But if you're going to commit to it, I mean, number one, there's one thing to even date someone locally. If you're going to be committed, you must see the value, right? But to date someone a long distance, you not only have to see the value, but you have to see the value and the purpose. Like
Right.
that needs to be a
Right.
combination. We
Right.
like we be purpose partners for me to be committed on that level to you. because we in this world, I mean, years ago, you heard many stories about people, doing just what Arnell said. They were, having phone calls. They were, they would sending letters and all these things. But nowadays, just as you have a more convenient path, you can FaceTime, you can do all kinds of things, but at the same time, you're just as distracted. So it's almost still a balance of distraction going on. You know what I'm saying? Distraction and focus. And so you have to key in on the person to say, look, if we're going to do this, we got to be focused, we got to be committed. I have to trust you, you have to trust me, but we have to have some places and points of action in detail in mind in order for this to work. Like, how long do we plan to commit to the distance before we make the action to connect together? Like, you can't just put it wide open and say, you my girl, I love you, and just keep on going forever. You have to say, babe, what do you think about this date and time, about us preparing to merge, whether we're going to be getting engaged or whether we're going to be, who's going to live where? Because nowadays, women have just as much of an empire built as men. Once upon a time, or you're going to leave your mother's house or your living girlfriend, you stacked up. You got a roommate with your girlfriend, so then you get married. Nowadays, women, they got their own houses, places, they own in different properties, investment properties, so they have just as much to lose as men. So when you come together, you have to have a serious discussion of the minds and be realistic and say, look, is this beyond our flesh? Can we really, really walk this out? Beyond the sex, can we do this? You know what I'm saying?
And that's funny when you said value and a purpose, because that was the means to an end for my friend that was with the Israel relationship, was that once they passed like the I think she said it was a year. Once they passed a year of the fluff, how she called it, where, I go see you, you come see me, because I think they made a total of like 4 trips encompassing all the and Messenger is a good way to talk to somebody out of the country, which is awesome because you can talk to somebody from anywhere in the world and not have to pay for it. So they use a whole lot of Facebook Messenger in order to stay plugged in as far as seeing each other on a regular basis. They had their date nights twice a week.
Are they married?
Yeah, they get ready to get married now.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Yeah, so they get ready to get married now, but but what they did was after they crossed that year, that's when they started pulling everything in together, started having those real intense conversations about the financial burden. Because you can imagine if you live in one country and I live in another country, there's going to be a huge burden no matter how you slice it. Something's going to have to give in order to be able to make that.
Especially with the plane tickets.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
So and she said the good thing about what they did was they made a decision to divide everything. They had nothing to where one person had the brunt. They had literally decided to divide everything. So whenever he would come to the States, she would hold down as far as because she had kids. So
okay.
What she first got together was she would get him a hotel room and all that stuff, so he wouldn't have to worry about lodging. And he would pay for his own plane ticket, and then so they kind of weighed it out to where no one person had the brunt of the full responsibility, so that they could financially stay, so they wouldn't have to worry about, because it's going to cost them. Period. It's one, a lot of these relationships, they cost. There's no way to get around that part. So what they learned to do, because there was value and there was purpose, they were like, since we're going to be joining forces and being an army, we need to start acting like it now. There's no need to start that later on. We need to start incorporating this now so we can be effective later. See how this works with us right now. So that's what they did. And then after a year, they got all that situated. And so now they're engaged and they're trying to get all the paperwork together so he can actually be over here and they can go ahead and get married. So that's where the phase that they're in now. But I mean, they made that thing work. It was impressive to watch the process, because it was. She said it was painful. It was a painful process because of the fact they weren't in the same space. But at the same time, she knew the pain wasn't going to be permanent. That's how, she would talk about it. And I wish I could have got them on here. But
this guy was out of the country, you said?
The guy's out of the country, but the female's here.
You sure he's not in a sleeper cell? No, I'm just playing. Go ahead.
Really? Wow.
Pray. Just pray. You all, when y'all do y'all night prayer tonight, remember Charles in that prayer, please. But and then what Bruce said was relevant as well, as far as I may not be able to connect with you at that time. So that's where the communication comes in, to tell the person
Yeah.
This is, babe, I'm not being funny or whatever, but I'm not going to always be able to follow through with what I said I was going to do. And I'm just, please don't be mad with me about it. But you know that I got this going and that going and that going and that this going. That's where those conversations need to be had. So there's no misunderstandings or misinterpretations or one person feels slighted by the other and that kind of stuff. So, that's important when you're in a relationship, period, because you can just be with somebody who's busy and you're in the same city and you
Right.
still don't have time, so it's just a matter of perspective and how to put things in the proper space where they belong.
Mm.
Well, trust is very important in a long distance relationship because I know a lot of people who have been in a long distance relationship, including myself in the past. Before I met my husband, I have experienced a long distance relationship. But that's where trust comes in because I knew a couple of people that sent for the lovers, like they went through years of not seeing the person, maybe 3, 4, 5 years, depending on how long it took the process, right, for that person to get there. And when the person come, it's a whole different thing. Either the time the person was there, the person was messing with someone else that they fall in love with, and they meaning to get here, and they okay. Now they don't want to be married to that person anymore. They want to send for whoever they were dating when they were there. So
Wow.
that's where trust comes in because when you're in a long distance relationship, it's not fairy tale. It's a lot of risks, okay? Because you are trusting someone you're not seeing on a daily basis, and they
Right,
can tell you whatever you want to
right,
hear, you
Right.
know. And you got to know the intention because most time people would just want to leave the environment and come to somewhere better. So they're gonna
Yeah.
make you feel like you are all for them. But the minute they get here and they know they're safe, they got the papers and everything, that's
Oh
when
wow.
they show you who they really are.
Wow.
There's a lady in my city, she sent for her man. He said he was a medical doctor and everything. And when he came here, he's not a medical doctor. Number two, he started cheating with other women. Number three, he packed things and left her house and
oh
filed for
wow,
divorce.
wow,
You
Wow.
know,
Good.
wow,
I had an
Ouch.
auntie, who it
right,
wasn't a long distance relationship. It was a relationship where the both of them came here together. And he
Mm.
also left her, went Africa and married another woman and brought the woman here. But she
Wow.
was the one that brought him. So, it's a lot of risks
well,
in a long
now
distance
they do
relationship.
that from state to state, honey. You can live in Idaho and he live
City to city. In the same
you
city.
can live in Idaho and he live in Michigan, honey. That's the same thing go down, honey. No matter where they live in the world, honey. Same
Hey,
behavior.
Jason, go on and
It's
give us something for Cece. Come on.
Yeah,
Hey
Jason, talk to
man, nah. Honestly, I'm blown away because you said dude was in Israel. She's here.
right.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
must have been some serious love, trust,
Yeah.
and admiration to
Yeah,
Yeah.
even go into that.
right,
Correct.
Because if we're gonna date for a year, and I
right,
see
Yeah.
you 4 times in 1 year,
right.
Yeah.
that's some serious trust and that's some serious strength and everything. I mean, that's some serious conversation on both sides. You know what I mean?
Right.
To
Oh
be
yeah,
able
I
to
mean you
stay involved
got
like that.
to be
Because
some
I know
that's
some
I
people that stay in
mean
the next neighborhood that can't keep me involved. So yeah,
Wow.
they can't keep
so
me
what?
interested.
I can't.
I mean, I'm just being honest. There's people that stay
Yeah.
around the corner that can't keep me interested, let alone someone who stay in a whole nother continent.
Country.
Oh
Yeah.
You know
wow.
what I'm saying? But
Wow.
no, I mean, long distance relationships, like Miss, make sure I say her name right. Miss Arnell said when she first opened up, and also what my man Charles said. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of communication and
Right.
definitely a lot of trust. Um, with technology these days, I think is a lot easier. I mean, you can
Right.
like you were saying, you can FaceTime each other. You got all these different apps that you can do, whatever. Where back in the 90s when I ended up doing it, we didn't have all of that. Hell, we couldn't
Right.
even always afford minutes on our cell phone. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Broke college kid and everything else. So yeah, it definitely took a lot of trust. A couple Greyhound buses, some trips home, several
Right.
weekends here and there. Luckily I wasn't too far away. But I mean, it's a lot of work. I mean, you got to be ready for it. I mean, you just can't jump in here and say we're gonna make this happen and think that you're not gonna have some bumps in the road. I mean, you're definitely gonna have to work.
I
Yeah.
mean Charles said it best. He said you have to make sure you're built for
For
it
it.
tough to handle it, first
Absolutely.
of all. Because everybody's before CC hops on, but everybody's language that they speak of love is different. And if the
Yeah.
language that you speak requires a person to be physically connected to you on a regular basis, long
You can
distance is
forget
not
it.
for you. You can
Yeah, you're
forget
gonna
it.
forget.
Don't even
No.
try it. Don't even waste your time or that other person's time, because you'll be easily distracted and you'll be in somebody else's arms just as fast. Or,
Yeah.
if you're a person who is bent on somebody actually doing what they say at the time when they do it and all those kind of things, sometimes a long distance is not for that person either, because their
Mm.
requirements are
No.
too high. You understand what I'm saying? As
You're
far as
needy.
that
That's not for you.
Yeah,
yeah,
you're
so
right.
if you needy or greedy, it's not for you. When it
Yeah.
comes to that, where you're requiring somebody to be spot on, spot on, spot on. And Charles said in another show that we had a while back, he made a good comment. He said, "Do we have to be on all the time? Do I
Right.
always have to be on my p's and q's all the time? No.
Yeah.
Everybody should have that air to let their hair down." And another thing too that we definitely need to talk about is space, because no matter where you are, whether you're in the same city or same backyard or whatever, every relationship requires an air of space.
Right.
So it
True.
may be a day where the only thing you say is "Good morning, love," and that's it. That's the
Yeah.
whole day. But
Right.
nothing's wrong. It's just that that person needed some space, or maybe you needed space. But that shouldn't happen all the time. Now that would be a problem, because that's where trust would break down, most definitely. But there
Not
are
true.
times where you're gonna have to say, you know what, hey, I'm gonna acknowledge my person every day, regardless. But some days I won't be able to make the time investment to be able to be connected or plugged into them. So that's that area of consideration that has to take place if you're going to make the distance really work.
Yeah.
CC,
And
talk to us.
and
Yes,
also having
ma'am.
Talk to us, CC.
self-control.
One of the
Having
things that
self-control is
Oh, yes.
go
go ahead.
Go ahead, CC. Go ahead, CC.
Okay,
the
so
the,
having self-control is very important, because if the person is sexually active and cannot control themselves, they would for that
Yeah.
whole year they're gonna get busy. You know what I mean? So having self-control when it comes to long distance relationship is very important, because I'm gonna give my personal experience. Okay, I I'm gonna give two personal experience that made me to quit about even thinking about long distance relationship. Okay, the first one was a guy that when we were kids, he wanted to date me, but then things didn't work, and I had to travel to another country before coming to Canada. So when I got in Canada and I was able to have a Facebook account, we connected and started communicating and wanted to start that relationship that didn't start in the first place. Okay, and this guy made me believe that we're gonna get married and everything. And he told me, "Oh, I want to start a business, but I don't have money." And here I am,
Uh-oh.
send this guy money to start a business,
You said
thinking
you
he's
Uh-oh.
said
gonna
you
start
said
it.
you sent him what? You did what? I couldn't hear you. You
You
did
said
what?
them.
You sent him what?
Okay, so I sent him money because he. No, but this
Got
guy
her.
is a childhood friend. Okay, so he's a childhood friend. It's
Okay,
not some
okay,
guy I just met online. So he's a
okay.
childhood friend, and he used to like me when we were kids. So after many years we haven't connected, when we finally connected, it wasn't straight up the front like give me money. It was after a couple of years when he told me that I want to start my own business, and I want, for us, I want you to help me. Let's get started here. So I sent this guy money. He took the money, shopping with it, messing with other girls. And when I realized that he didn't invest the money, that was it. I quit. Okay, I quit that relationship because I realized that he lied. Okay, and he was cheating. So
Mm,
I quit that other relationship. I
mm.
couldn't do it. And then the last one, the last relationship, long distance that I wanted to establish, right, was the guy I was communicating with. And you know, when you are long distance, you believe whatever the person tell you, right? So this guy told me he was saying going out, and we started communicating. And one day I finally decided to call him very late, right? When I called him, the girl picked up the phone. I was like,
Oh,
no, I think I got the wrong number.
Oh.
I hung up the phone. So when I call him, right, because the time difference, right? So when I call him, it was late, and the girl picked up the phone and said hello. And I know he didn't. He told me he didn't have a girlfriend, right? So the girl picked up the phone. She said hello. I said no. I think this is the wrong number. So I hang up the phone and I look at my phone again. I said, no, this is my boyfriend number. Why come a girl is picking it up? So I decide to call back when he realized that the girl answered the phone, right? So this guy is so smart, okay? He recorded a voice message that sounded like he was having problem with the network. So you'd be like,
Wow.
hello, can you hear me? Hello? But then that recording had a laughter in it, right? So that recording had a laughter. He wasn't smart enough. So it had a laughter in it. So when I called it 3 times, the exact same laughter every time. So I said, no, this is not a network issue. This is a recording. So then what I did, I went over to a friend of mine. I know this person personally, right? I said, can you call this guy and find out what's going on? Because when I call, I'm sure a girl pick up the phone. So then the person decided to call him, and he didn't know I was there. So the person called him and put him on speaker and said, yo, man, what's up? What's going on? He said, oh, that girl called me from Canada. You know, I was having sex with this girl and she just picked up the phone. I was like, are
Oh.
you kidding me? That was it. I said, no more long distance for me. And that's how I decided, no, I'm not going to do long distance. I'd rather date somebody I can see. I'd rather
Wow.
date somebody right here.
Wow. Okay. CC,
Yeah.
come on.
What's up, y'all?
Welcome, Dr. Janet.
I'm gonna tell you, all y'all had some really great points. I appreciate the honesty, the trust, not being needy. But we've got to be, first of all, we got to be discerning.
Yeah.
You have got to have some sense of discernment to determine whether or not this is even the right person. Because you got to have discernment even when they're in your face.
Right.
And then you got to be intentional, because the effort has to be there on some level. I prefer, and I'm not going to be ashamed to say it, I would prefer starting a relationship long distance, because I found that local dating tends to it tends to lead to people being needy. I'm a busy person.
Mm.
So if I'm busy as a single individual who's trying to build, who's trying to leave legacy and do all these things, because I have children who are teenagers who run track, they play basketball, they run cross country. I have a catering business. I have an event center. I'm in ministry. So if you need to be in my face all the time, I can't nurture that.
Right.
But long distance, at least there's a plan time, so being intentional matters. And then the third thing would be to be strategic. How are we going to communicate? How are we going to acknowledge the needs of us as individuals? Because you still have needs, even though you may be busy. You still have personal desires. You have things that you want in a relationship. For me, I would prefer, if I can have honesty and talk time, that's great, because that will build the trust. Trust is earned. It's not given away freely.
Right.
A lot of times people give their trust away before they even get into a place of understanding who they're trusting. I want to know, what do you pick your nose with your left finger or your right? I mean, there are some things that you learn over time, but you trust it as
Yeah.
you get to know
The
that
left or
person.
the
And
right
then,
finger? See, the left or the right finger? The left or the right
yeah, because some
finger?
people
Okay,
don't,
okay, all right.
it's a handshaking thing. If you pick your
Okay,
butt in your nose with your right hand, you don't shake it. With your left hand,
Right.
you don't shake it with the hand.
okay.
It depends on what country you're in. But again, you learn those things because you want to know the small things. So many people want to know the big stuff, like what kind of
Right,
job you have, what kind of education, all this.
right,
That's
right,
cute, but that's
right,
superficial. That's what the ambassador brings to the table.
right,
You
Mm.
need
right,
to get to know
right,
the person on a
right,
personable level to
right,
determine, is this worthwhile? Is this what I like? I
right.
like
Mm.
my steak with no fat on it. So I don't need a muscle-bound man in a suit with a cape flying in the back. I need somebody who, when he sit back on the sofa, I can rub his stomach. So
Mm.
that's something that may be a personal desire. And then the next thing is you have to be strategic and intentional, of course. You got to have some goals. Where are we going? What is
Yeah.
the goal of this relationship?
The
And you
purpose.
can make short term, long term,
Right.
spiritual, physical. If there are children involved, even at my age, I'm 49. If there are grandchildren involved, how are we going to determine how we handle our families? And then finally, of course, you got to be forgiving. I think
Mm.
one of the worst things in the world is to be, number one, misunderstood, and number two, unforgiving.
Mm.
If they can't make that call when you're long distance, you got to understand they had a life before you.
Right.
So the transition has to be comfortable and it has to be laid out. So you make those goal setting opportunities by saying this is what I want by a certain time, not a date. You can't say by September 15th I want to be married. It would be safer to say after doing this over a year or 6 months for me. And I said something on Facebook a few days ago. At 49, 50, 55 years old, if it takes you a long time to determine if that's the person, you are immature.
Yeah.
At a certain age, you cannot take 50 years to decide. I can't, like me personally, I can't date somebody greater than 6 months.
Right.
After 6 months, I need to know where are we going? What is the end result that we're looking for? Are we trying to be married? We're just going to be friends? We're just going to be restaurant buddies when we come together in each other's cities and states?
Wow.
Or are we trying to build something so that we can have a happily ever after? And for me, I believe that if you talk and have sensible conversation, okay, the business thing is great. The ministry part is great because I've met some preachers who God knows, I would never, ever engage in any kind of personable relationship because I see how they handle other things. So you got to look at how are they handling life, and you can't look at it through the eyes of social media. I think FaceTime is one of the best tools that we have. I want you to see what I look like without lipstick on. I'm thankful that I don't wear a bunch of makeup because you ain't getting too much more than this. When I post pictures on Facebook, that's how I'm really sharing. I ain't got no stuff holding it in and pushing it up. I ain't got time for all that. So at my age,
Lord have
you get
mercy.
what you get. And some people cannot handle the raw naked. They literally want the superficial. And then when they find out, well, she ain't really shaped like that, or he's not really a business owner. He actually works for his father and he has
Oh,
no
wow.
inheritance. You know what I'm saying? There are some things that can be found out just by communicating and being honest. So with the 6 things that I pointed out being, and I had to write them down because y'all were doing a lot of talking. You got to be discerning. You got to be intentional. You got to be strategic. You got to be goal oriented and forgiving and determined. I think the determination factor will help you to decide, am I going in the right direction or should we just stop? Because it's okay to stop. I think one of the biggest problems that we have is that people don't know how to stop and say it's okay.
Right.
If this long distance relationship looks like or seems like it's going sour, okay, you can say, babe, every time you say you're gonna call, it's like 2-3 days. What's going on? Do we need to stop? And it's okay to ask that question.
Oh yeah,
Hey,
2 or
Jenny,
3
how you
days
doing?
that
Jenny's
ain't
on
the
the
blessing for 2 or 3 days, honey. No ma'am. Mm-mm.
Well,
yeah, and
so
that's my point. If
So
you're gonna do long
that's
distance,
already determined and established. That's a different animal.
yes,
If it's
yes,
determined and
because you gotta
established, and I
have,
know that 2 or 3 days
yes,
you got this, that, and the third going on, I can respect that
yes.
wholeheartedly. But ain't gonna be no 4, 5, 10, and all the time
No, no,
ongoing.
no, no, no. And see,
Every
the thing is,
6
long distance,
yeah,
there has to be some kind of, and you mentioned this coffee earlier, there has to be some kind of daily interaction. If you give
absolutely.
me the good morning text that says, good morning, how's your day at the end of the day, something, even if we don't have a one-on-one conversation, there is some level of respect in that you've made me your priority. If you cannot make
Absolutely.
me your priority, what are we
Absolutely.
doing? There's no foundation. You got to
Absolutely.
have that.
Hey,
and
so
here's
let
another,
me go
oh,
to the chat real fast, Mr. Dixon, before you chime in. And we got Dr. Janet in the building, so we definitely want to hear from her. But it's some good stuff in here. Janice Westbrook made a really solid comment, and Chastity did too. Make room for someone in their life before they've even earned a seat at the table.
Yes,
She was talking about
yes.
what Carrie was talking about, giving somebody too much before they've earned it. Janice Westbrook says there's not a lot of difference between a regular long-term relationship with busy people and long-distance relationship that's consistent. Time spent together may end up being the same, and the long-distance relationship could be considered foreplay. Katonia says
Yes.
even in a long distance relationship, people make time for what's important to them. If a person doesn't make time to communicate, FaceTime, talk, visits, etc., there's a possible painful reality that you're just a temporal situation. Very true.
that's
Very,
good.
very
And
true.
there's another point
And
too
it's
that
true.
we got to see that there's got to be space. One of y'all mentioned space.
I mentioned that
You got
earlier.
to have, and I said this to someone this week, you got to have enough room in your relationship to miss that person.
Oh,
I
Mm,
can't
absolutely.
have somebody in my face every day, all day before we
Mm-hmm.
get to them. Because when you get married, even when you're married, you got to have some space. You're still an individual who
Absolutely.
has joined a corporate unit and built something that can be eternal. but you got to have space to still have an identity. If you
Right.
don't have an identity within the relationship, I don't need a twin. I tell people all the time, people are looking, oh, I'm looking for somebody who does this, this, and this like me. No, you don't need a twin because you
Right.
can date yourself.
Right.
But if you're looking for a
This is
healthy relationship, you got to have some
amazing to hear.
space to bloom and an opportunity to miss that person. You got to have a chance to say, hey, how was your day? And let them tell you how their day was.
Right.
Don't ask how it was when you start talking about yourself.
And
Right.
listen and retain the information, and then go back to it at another opportunity when it presents itself.
Mm.
Because sometimes people don't really pay attention to the small details. It's in the details. It's always in the details. It's like Cece, you know my sister. She's down there. She has her baking company, Charity.
Yeah.
Same thing. Whenever I go home and my sister is doing some kind of, even you, Cece, when you guys are setting up, there's these little meticulous things that everybody else cannot see it, but y'all
I can
can.
see it.
Right.
Yep.
And you're
And we go
like,
crazy when it's out of order.
and like the last time you yelled at me about something I put in the wrong place, I said the devil's a lie. I ain't coming back no more. She over you. I thought I told you. I said, wait a minute, hold on. You what? Who? What? So, but it makes sense though, because when you look at the finished product, it is
Yeah.
perfect in your eyes. And so people
Yeah.
appreciate the little things to say, hey, if you say, hey, man, I've been stressed, it's been a crazy day all day. That's your cue to back off and not go forward with a conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to know the cues, when to apply them. You got to know when to push forward. You got to know when to, like you said, CC, just back off completely. You got to know what the signs are. You got to know what to be meticulous about and what to say, oh, that's okay if that don't, turn out blah, 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 blah. But you got to know the do's and don'ts, the wins and what's. Like I always say, you have to learn a person to earn a person. That's very important, that we take the initiative to make
I,
our person to our book. Whatever that book means, that's what you study. You study the book of who that person really is, not what you want them to be, but who they actually are. And you
And
apply
don't be
that.
afraid to rewrite it too. Because a
Right.
lot of times we get so stuck in I want and we scroll out that list. So what if the list shows up and only 80% of that? Some people, I get it, they want the 100% of what's on their list.
Absolutely.
And in my maturity, I've come to realize that, and it's not about the Mr. Almost and the, Mr. Right. It's literally, are you willing to change? Because everything God created changes. So people
Absolutely.
say dumb stuff like, oh, he changed or she changed. They're supposed to. They're
Right.
evolving.
Right.
They're understanding life from a different perspective. They're becoming more carefree the more they realize certain things just don't matter.
Mm.
I think it would be healthy. I'm at a place like right now that if I go to the next level in a relationship and he says, well, I live in Florida. If you live in Florida and I live in California, let's move to Texas. We move to Texas. Some
Right.
people are so stuck that they
Right.
don't want to say, they want to be who they are more than they want to be with a person.
Right. They
And
don't want to
that's why,
negotiate. Right.
can
Right.
I
yeah,
can
they
I
don't
add
want
to
to.
that?
Go ahead, Bruce. And then we're gonna
I
have
want to
Dr.
add to that, but I'm so happy. I'm so happy to see Dr. New. I want to hear what she has to say first, and
Yes.
then I'll say something with her.
Dr. Janet, come on through, Ladybug.
I do believe that Bruce is trying to set me up.
I think so.
I believe that's what he's doing. But you know what?
Yeah.
Now, first of all, I want to apologize for being late because I had to take care of something with my daughter. But I was listening to Cece. Do you mind if I call you Cece?
I don't mind at all. I appreciate you being here
Great,
tonight.
great.
So good to see you.
It's good to see you all. I was listening to her, and she made so many valid points. And I believe what we fail to realize, even in relationship, that men they think differently than women. And so we want to converse, we want to talk, we want to know how his day went, we want to know what happened, and we want him to feel the same way about us, where he may just, once a week, twice a week, will talk to you because if he's a businessman, he's very busy. But I heard what the young lady said from Canada about the young man having a girlfriend, what happened in that situation. A lot of times we overlook the signs. There are signs in every relationship that let you know whether it's face to face or long distance. In long distance relationships, they start out where, hey, he's calling you all the time, you're calling him all the time, and then it begins to dwindle down And most likely with the women, we're calling them more than they're calling us. And then we begin to wonder why. And sometimes men get bored with that type of relationship. And we have to know what is a deal breaker in our relationships.
That's good.
We have to establish the deal breakers and then stick to them. If he does this is a deal breaker. There's nothing wrong with forgiving them, but as far as the relationship being a romantic one, it can be a friendly one, but it definitely won't be a romantic one, because this deal breaker is something that I can't deal with. And what I mean by deal breaker, those things that you will not tolerate, that you will not accept, that you don't want to accept.
Right.
And so we must establish it, because once we start throwing away the deal breakers and we find ourselves in a relationship, and at the end of the day, we realize that we have depleted ourselves in a relationship, that we shouldn't have ever went past first base, because we accepted all those deal breakers. You know?
Yeah.
And so
And that's why people can't have sex too early. It misconstrues your motives. It shifts your understanding. It changes the way you view that person. And I think that your body is like the most valuable thing you own. People be trying to talk about, I can't let them have a key to my house. Well, you slept with them.
Come
So,
on.
Right.
you know, it's like by the time you have sex, that should be like the last thing.
Right.
Exactly. And if you can't, and you have to know your perimeters, you have to know just how much you can take. You know, I heard and I understand what she was saying about foreplay, but what's happening in our relationships, you have these conversations online, and these video and audio conversations, and these text messages, and you're sending these pictures back and forth, and the relationship goes from something that you're trying to build on to something that I can't wait to see him, or I can't wait to see her, because I want to have sex. And after that happens, a lot of women do not realize that man will have sex with you the first time he sees you and decide right then and there, I can't be with her because she laid with me the very first time she met me. And so he's thinking the relationship is going to be great because he loves her and she loves him. And when they see each other, it's okay to be intimate. No, it's not okay to be intimate. It's not okay to be intimate at all. Let your intimacy, and I know this sounds corny, fall in love with each other's mind, fall in love with each other's personality before you have sex.
Right.
Because it kind of like, it messes up your mind, and you mistake lust for love.
Right.
Because it makes it emotional, right?
But you know what? You said something good, Dr. Janet. When you mentioned pictures, when you said something about pictures, that's good stuff right there. Because here is a major problem when we're sending the wrong message but expecting the right outcome.
That's it.
Dang, you said a whole bunch.
Sending the wrong message, expecting the right outcome, right?
You don't want no sex, you retarded.
Sending pictures, inappropriate pictures and stuff like that, and then when you are on one of my guy friends said something to me that had me really tripping. I was like, what? He said he met this girl one time, and she FaceTimed him, and all he saw was part of her body. And he was like, whoa, wait a minute, hold on now. I thought we was just gonna talk. I don't need to see all that. We just talking. Aren't we just talking? And so it showed that he had integrity, character, and everything else, even in the face of her being derogatory and distasteful and exposing herself like that. It showed his maturity level to not hurt the girl by correcting her, but teaching her how to be a lady and appropriately address the situation. But you said a mouthful when you said about those pictures. Those can be a very bad outcome with that kind of that's some stuff that you really need to refrain from doing. If it's something that can come back to bite you later on in some kind of platform, don't need to send it. Don't send it.
Cece said something that was so good. I believe she was talking about being okay with it not working. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Because a lot of times, you know what I don't like about relationships, whether they're long distance or close up or face to face? If you start out being friends, why is it after you decide that you don't want to date anymore, you can't be friends anymore? What is wrong with that?
That makes sense.
Because you want friends.
That means that the friendship wasn't
Exactly.
genuine in the first place.
I think it's because one person, the reason why they can't be friends anymore, because one person still want to be in the relationship.
There you go. There you go. That's good. That's good.
And it takes a mature person. When you have two mature persons and you decide, say we're dating, and you decide that you don't want to date anymore, I'm a firm believer in relationship. I'm a relationship person. So
Mm.
I don't want to, maybe we misunderstood the chemistry. Maybe we
Mm.
should have just been working together or just being friends, being confidant. I'm a firm believer in salvaging relationships on the right level.
That's
Um,
good. That's good.
don't get
That's
if
good.
we break up a romantic relationship, don't go on social media and block me if I'm not doing anything to you.
That's true.
Right. And
Just
well, and even
That's very
and you
true.
know what is amazing too?
That's true.
You'll know that you're maturing when you can end a relationship with someone and still be friends. That's when I realized I was getting old. I
me,
broke up with
me
somebody.
too.
You know the feeling, Dr. Janet. I broke up with him and I was like, hey, how you doing? And he was like, you all right? I said, I'm good. What's going on? And I was like, you know what? I met somebody and I think I think y'all ought to hook up and go out. And we started talking. He got comfortable and he was like, so I said, we ain't do nothing. I ain't give you no booty. So it was comfortable to go back to being friends because we never crossed those boundaries.
That's
And
right.
a kiss, a hug, okay, fine. But when you start having touches in the wrong place, what did you call it, Coffee, when we start swapping DNA?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's
The
what
swab, baby. The
comes.
cotton swab, honey. The swab. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. When you
But
start doing things that require you to question your own motives,
Uh-huh.
you
Right.
mess up and can't be friends. So if your friendship is genuine, you can develop and cultivate and go back to
Absolutely.
being friends.
And here's another thing too. This is interesting because it's funny that you say that. But you know what? One thing I learned when I was in medical school back in the day was one thing we talked about was what happens in your brain when you're overstimulated. Sometimes people having
Hmm.
too much physical expression. So because they've
Yep.
had so much, they cannot focus on all the other facets of what
Mhm.
created the relationship in the first
In
place.
the first
So
place, yes.
a lot of times you got to be able, and you have to be friends with your person too, because we all come from a past, especially if you're a real grown up. There's going to be people that cross the path that we might not necessarily want to cross with, but that person been with somebody before they was with you. So the
That's right.
friendship part can kick in where you're mature enough to say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with this, but I understand it because I know
Hmm.
that there's a probability that he may come across somebody that I used to roll with in that type capacity too. So I want him to be able to handle it in the same mature fashion as he expects me to handle it
Right.
as far
mm,
as that's
Hmm.
concerned, because we're adults. We done been somewhere before we with the person we with now. We done been
Yeah.
elsewhere. So we have to be
Definitely.
able to even if it hurts, sometimes you have to still laugh it off and go in your own personal corner and deal with your insecurity about it. Because
oh,
you may really have an
And
insecurity about it,
you
but you
know
may have to take
something,
your time out corner. You might have to go in your time out corner. You know what? I'm insecure
Bruce,
about this.
you're leaving Bruce out. You're leaving Bruce out.
Bruce dying. Bruce is
You're leaving
dying.
Bruce.
Bruce, why you laughing, Bruce? Go ahead, Bruce.
I am
Go ahead,
laughing
Bruce.
because I'm laughing because I want y'all to be quiet for a minute.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Bruce.
Come on,
they,
may
they
I, Charles?
ran off, Bruce. Go ahead.
I want y'all to hear some testosterone for a minute.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right now.
Oh, have mercy. Listen, and I'm only joking. I love y'all. Only joking. But listen, we don't know what we don't know when we deal with each other. For the life of me, I don't get how, if I'm in one state and you are in another state, you don't know me, man.
Right.
So how is it that because you press go, it's like my
Mm.
video game. When you press go and you select a character for the game that you're going to play with, that means that it's on.
Mm,
Sisters, you don't know if it's on yet. Let's just talk. And if I don't want to talk to you every day, why I gotta talk to you every day?
mm,
Mm.
mm.
Let's take this thing slow and get into the psychological perimeters of our understanding of each other.
Right.
The challenge is because a lot of y'all out here, and I'm only saying it like this for entertainment purposes, a lot of y'all out here are thirsty.
mm.
You're thirsty. And y'all and we take great care as men not to tell you that you're thirsty.
True.
but we smell it. We can smell it from another state. We are hunters. This is who we are. We see it. And the challenge is, and don't let her have the Holy Ghost, brothers. Lord have mercy. I don't even want to bring that up. Don't let her have an anointing on her life.
You can forget it.
Because it makes it that much more difficult to say, slow down, girl.
Right.
Slow down.
Right.
So I like to say quickly that I want to take my time and talk. If I talk to you on Monday and not talk to you again on Thursday, be all right with that. Just because you press go and selected your character, that does not mean I am running with the same yoke tied to me as you have.
Wow.
We don't know if we equally yoked yet. And you don't know what you don't know. Right. So then when I get into your presence, when I actually come into your presence, I'm going to experience some things that the dynamics of the telephone did not show me. But if we take our time and just talk, man, and give me the opportunity to discover how you think. Because as men, I say for me, I'm not marrying a booty, preacher. I am marrying a mentality. It's a mentality that I'm marrying. And the best way to understand what's in the mentality is what comes out of the mouth. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And I'm going to take that discernment and I'm going to listen to what you do say and what you don't say. But if I'm talking to you every day, the newness, keep in mind as men, we are made in the image of God. We are attracted and excited about newness.
Not go day.
The newness is going to excite me. Yes, I'm going to call you. I'm excited. You got me stirred up. I done took on an Amnon spirit, especially if I had a rough week. I won't even go into the Amnon spirit, but yes, I'm gonna be excited at first.
Right.
But if nothing else motivates me, allow me that time. Do you understand what I'm saying? We ain't fornicating now. We're trying to walk this thing out properly. You already live 1,000 miles from me. So if we ain't fornicating, if I'm not coming down here to act like friends with benefits because I'm trying to live righteous, then trust the process. You understand what I'm saying? Trust the process and stop being so thirsty.
And so, wait.
Now, there are thirsty men out there.
I got a question.
We cannot disregard that there have been some acts of thirst expressed by men who.
Thank you.
Oh, thirsty can go both ways.
No wars. See that? No wars.
Because no wars. But the acknowledgement is that there are some men who have the devour and conquer spirit that they want to have that trophy.
Absolutely.
Because there are women like the ones that Coffee described, the women who are out there making their moves, making their name, making a life for themselves. And there are some thirsty men, and I'm not going to say few because I've met some thirsty men who will do like they did with Arnell. Arnell experienced a man who wanted all he wanted from her, and he got it, and then it was over.
Right.
But because there was no communication of what is real and what is not.
Right.
So that's what I was going to say.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead, Jason. Oh, wait. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say I had a question.
Go ahead,
I'm
Jason.
listening, and this is a lot of good stuff going on, but it's not as much fun if I don't at least play devil's advocate at least once and ask some off-the-wall questions.
At least once. Come on, Jason.
I'm hearing some really, really, really good points. I'm hearing some real serious subjects. And I agree with Bruce. It's like I'm marrying a mentality. It's not just your body, but it's, that comes along with it. And now I'm gonna throw a little heat on here. Now, number one, men, we're not always thirsty. And sometimes we're just pimping. No, I'm just kidding. But, I'm kidding. But I did have a question. Okay.
You kidding, but I'm not, brother.
Okay. Here's the deal. Check this out. So I agree with what everybody was talking about. I don't necessarily want to see your body when we first meet. I don't necessarily, want to just jump in the sack with you when we first meet. Because there was obviously some attraction. If I was out of town, you was out of town or whatever when we met. And that's what got us on the phone or whatever, social media or whatever in the first place. Now, fast forward, I agree with everything that all of y'all are talking about. Now, say for instance, you and this person have been going back and forth for quite a while, like P. Coffee, like you was talking about your friend with the person in Israel, right? So they're going back and forth. They've been talking for the first quarter. They decide that, hey, I'm about to fly out here and I'm gonna come visit you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, okay, so you fly all the way from the United States to Israel. You've been FaceTiming this person and everything else. You get out there. You think you met the love of your life. You cannot wait to see this person. You go to their place and they dirty. Then what?
We gotta have a discussion. We gotta have a discussion. We gotta have a discussion.
You done flew to a whole new continent to go see this person. You get to their place, thinking you're about to spend some time with them, and now you find out they dirty or got roaches or whatever,
Oh, wow.
Oh, no. No.
Wow.
Well, here's the thing.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Dixon.
Then Dr. Janet, you want Dr. Janet say something? You talking to me or her?
Can I say something? Did you say Dr. Janet?
Go ahead, Dr. Janet.
And then you hit
Okay. I wanted to say this. Communication is so key. Now, if you're trying to build a relationship, then you need to communicate with one another.
Right.
You may be with a person who don't like to talk all the time, and they may want to talk all the time. Communicate. Tell each other where you're at. Sometimes you have to reiterate it. Sometimes you may have to reiterate it. But we need in relationship, and that's what I want to say about Cece. In relationship, we need to give a margin for error. We want everything to be perfect in our eyesight, and a lot of times each one of us individually are looking at the world according to us and us only, not according to being with someone because you're single. You're looking at this relationship from a single point of view. Now, we know dating means collecting data to see if you're compatible. Absolutely. But how can you collect data to see if you're compatible when it's all one-sided? And then the second thing, I'm telling you, I have met some thirsty men. I'm sorry, you say some men are thirsty. I've met some thirsty men. I even met a thirsty man this weekend. And the thing about it is, we can't just say women are thirsty. There are some men that are thirsty, and this is not to attack or anything like that. You understand what I'm saying? Right. But there are thirsty men out there. There are men who are thirsty for what that woman has. They don't want to work. They want to lay on a couch, so they will play that I love you game so that they can get in that house and literally destroy that woman's life. And I'm talking about long-distance relationships. And there are men who are thirsty for sex. They're sex addicts, and they will do whatever they need to do to get that sex. And once they get that sex, they're going on to the next person. You can't even trust your own daughter in the room with them. So
like an infinity stone.
And so many aspects to dating, especially long-distance relationships, because this man can be shooting game. I'm coming from a woman's perspective because I'm a woman. This man may be shooting game, telling you how, what he has and what he does, and he has a very wonderful gift of gab. And then you meet that man, he only got one tooth. And like you said, his breath smells so bad until you can smell him coming down the hallway. And he didn't wash his body, but all you can see on that video.
Got that 3-second trail.
You know what I'm saying? He got a bad stomach because his breath stinking. The toothpaste is not working, so something is in there. And so we have to be very careful. I mean, I don't have a problem. I prefer long distance relationships myself because then I can go do what I have to do without him being at my door all the time.
Well, Dr. Janet, on tonight.
On tonight.
Yes, sir.
Got my witness spinning.
Go ahead, Dr. Dixon. Go ahead, Dr.
Dr. Janet, here's something you have to consider. We all have to make sure that let's think about a drug addict. Who's his favorite? Who's the favorite person of a drug addict?
The drug
dealer.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to make sure we aren't wearing the dealer tag. What happens when you have the user guy or the guy who want to do this? You know why he's coming? Because you look like the dealer. He got the money. She look like she eats. Oh, I could go lay up over there so I can play PlayStation while she go to work. That's why he does it, because you with the dealer stamp. And that's
say so, Charles.
And so here's I was being quiet. Okay, here's the
Charles. Go ahead.
Hey, man,
Charles.
on it.
We have to understand this. when it comes to long distance, just like when people prepare for war, when you prepare for war, when you say you want to agree to a long distance relationship, it's like saying, I'm willing to prepare for war. So that means you have to
Yes.
pack, you got to carry enough water with you. You got to make sure you have enough armor, like Dr. Janice say, to say, hey, some of this stuff got to be charged to the game because he or she made a mistake. I can't be critical of everything, right? And the other part of it is you got to say, look, distance. People say long distance is it's a tough thing being in a distant relationship because long distance is long distance is psychological. It's just not distance, it's felt. You can feel when somebody lives far from you. And psychologically,
Yes.
it dictates your behavior if you're not a person of integrity. And one part you all missed tonight, if we are honest, most of us are in the I have already consummated age group, okay? So in that age group, this is the age group of maintenance. And if people are honest, we say what we want, but people want that sex. I don't care what you say. Whoever you live, wherever you live. I mean, you could barely get somebody to keep it correct living down the street, like your boy said, Jason. I mean, so let alone when you're dealing with somebody that's away, now they might like you, and you might be their preference of husband, boyfriend, or wife, whoever. But in the meantime, people are going to say, yeah, I'm going to go visit her or him in 2 months. But here and now, this is what I have to take care of this situation for now. That's just real
What are you
talk.
saying?
People say what you want.
What are you saying? You're saying that he may.
What you saying? What you saying? Wait a minute. You
I'm
had
saying-
us for a minute there, but I think you lost us.
No, I'm not saying.
No, I caught where he is. I'm gonna tell you how I caught where he is. There are people who can have I can have a long distance relationship with the guy in California. Be content with that, build that. But some people, and I'm so thankful I'm not one of them, I think I'm too busy. Some people literally have a sex partner only locally.
Right.
Well, they'll
Let's
build
call him
a
a maintenance man.
relationship with someone.
Or woman.
long
Yeah,
distance.
that's why it works for them.
And that's why having
see-
integrity is one thing, but you've also got to have it was something I wanted
Self-control
to
too.
say. You got to
Yeah.
have some self-control.
Right.
But you also got to have on the other side of the table, you got to have some security. You got to be
Yeah.
secure.
Yeah.
Because
Some people,
I'm at a place that if I date long distance and I find out he's had sex with someone else, I'm not going to lose my mind. All that means is we're just that much further than I thought on
Right.
becoming
Right.
a unit. Because you
Right.
cannot, and that's where forgiveness comes in. If they
Right.
slip and you stirred them up, you sending them pictures and
videos and all this.
talking love talk after 11 and going into all of your what I would do to you. Well, you just hung the phone up with somebody that's got a 2x4 in the bed with them. What you want me to do? They finna call their black book call and get it off of them and then call you, hey baby, how you doing? I love you. So we've got to be forgiving because if you don't have the power to have to be with imperfect people, you shouldn't even be in a relationship in the first place.
Right. And you have
need
to
to
be able
be
to.
honest though, Charles. When you said what you said, Charles, people have to be honest and say what their requirements
Thank you.
There's no need to be in a long distance relationship if you got to have that type of maintenance.
Coffee. It sounds good.
Well,
Sounds good. But trust me.
can I say something?
It's a reality. It don't get
But if you require that type of maintenance, a long distance relationship is not within the scope of your life. That's not reality.
Okay, forget about sex. Think about
Can
this.
I say something?
Okay, 1 second. Yeah, think about this, P. Coffee. You in a long distance relationship, and you yourself, you with this guy, and your main concern is that he is faithful physically to you. He's checking in daily. He's saying, yeah, baby. He's giving you the sweet nothings and all of that. Now, on your side, let's get to you. You could be the person that while you may not be having sex with somebody, but maybe your love language is a little different. You might have a friend that takes you out to dinner, tell you look nice, or talk to you on the phone here and there. He may not be tapping, but he's meeting a need. So psychologically, you're a little content where your guy just may be a little carnivorous. Doesn't make him a criminal. He's just a little carnivorous about the way he moves. You understand what I'm saying?
And I got that, but that's what my point is. If he's carnivorous about the way he moves, he needs to move in his space then, not in mine. That's being fair to the relationship. like y'all said earlier, if we come to that crossroad where we find where we're not compatible in the scope of that, him getting his need met, because that's a need that needs to be met. That's a requirement, right? If it's a requirement, then
Can
that
I add to that?
person needs to get it met where they can get it met. If you, I mean, it's like driving on the highway. If you getting ready to run out of gas, right? You don't care what gas station you go to, you go get gas, right?
Right.
If you're dealing with a person who has to get fueled up regardless of where the station is, and they don't have a brand preference, then they need to be with somebody else. Because I got a brand preference. So I'm not going to.
That's called deal breakers.
We're gonna let
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say this real quick thing.
Uh-huh.
The number one thing is this is just what, to the cut to the chase. When you are considering a long distance relationship with anybody, you first have to measure the level of desire to really take on that mantle versus that person's individual level of need. And when you talk to them and you realize you got a person, like I said, that's not built, you can hear the need. And when they're talking, you're saying, "Oh, I can't deal with this person. I can't even get them off the phone half the day." So let alone if if I'm not necessarily like Bruce is being busy or Carrie being busy, and this person has the kind of need where you need to validate them several times a day or a week.
Come on.
That's not going to work. You really got to measure a person's level of need versus their level of desire to move to the next level. Then that's what you
And that's discernment.
Right.
But you know,
You
Charles,
gotta use that
you said
discernment.
something. You said this. You said that they may be saying, "Hey, baby, I love you," but then they have to get that need met. My thing is this, and it's just my thing, and I may be wrong, but this is my thing. If you're going to do that, be honest enough with me to let me decide whether I want to be in a relationship with that type of person.
There you go.
Have that much integrity and that character to say, "Hey, baby, look, I'm feeling you, but I don't, I'm feeling you, but I got to get what I got to get." And if you can handle that, come on. And I know people say that's not a realistic thing, but this is what's wrong with relationships now.
Exactly.
These secrets of what is destroying, making good people, bad people in relationship when they have been walking in integrity with you and you have not been walking in integrity with them. Right. There is no justice and there is no fairness in this. This is not something that is just life. This is something that is not integral and destroys good people. Turn women into dogs and men into dogs. Just hear me out.
Absolutely.
So we have to have integrity with one another. There is nothing cute about that. And there is nothing smart about that. And there is nothing relationship building about that. In essence, that is the thing that is going to be a deal breaker, especially if that man is walking in integrity. And this chick right here is saying, "Baby, I love you," but she's going out with her best friend, laying up with her best friend. And every time he look up, she's in a picture on Facebook or Instagram with her best friend. And they're knocking boots, but she's saying, "But baby, I love you, and you know I'm not going to be doing anything like that." And he finds out, then this is going to mess him up. He could potentially turn into a big dog and vice versa. So we need to operate in integrity. That's what makes the best relationship, whether it's long distance or face to face. Integrity. Let each other decide whether they want to be with that type of person.
Right.
We live in an age where people are so brutally honest. It's selfish, yes. But what I'm talking about as far as the ability to communicate. The ability to communicate is a little bit more open than it was 20 years ago.
Right.
So when you're looking at the average person, people actually don't mind telling you where they stand.
Come on. That's right.
We're not in a place where people used to be passive. If you look at the society we live in now, people are more dominant. They're not passive. They're more aggressive in their communication. They will tell you in a minute, "I'm looking out for me." Mm-hmm. So when you come into a relationship with someone who cannot even communicate who they are, you have to determine your own decision. Is this what I want?
Absolutely.
And it's like going to the candy store. You can take me in a candy store. Some people, you can take me in a candy store and they want a piece of every candy. Take me to a candy store, I want the Reese's.
Right.
That's all I want. You can show me all the pretty colors and all the other stuff. At the end of the day, I just want a Reese's. And what my point is that we're especially, and I'm talking about the mature mind. I'm talking 35 and above.
Mm-hmm.
You come through some things and experience some things that if you have a problem communicating what you want and who you are, you probably shouldn't be in a relationship. Not that kind.
That's right.
That's it.
Can I say something?
Go ahead, Bruce. Oh,
And
Go ahead, Arlene. Arlene,
Arnell been on hold.
okay.
okay, so a lot of times we think long distance relationship has to be with somebody living in another country. Now, there are long distance relationship where, like, especially those that work on the oil field, okay,
right, right,
they come
right,
home
Hmm.
one week in a month, and they're gone
right,
for
That's
three
good.
weeks in a month.
right.
And
That's good.
some of them are already married. It's not like they're looking for a relationship. They're already married. They have their wives. They have their kids, and those relationships get broken up because the father is never there for the birthday. He's never there for the wedding anniversary. He never there for his wife's birthday. He never there for his
That's
kid's
good.
graduation. I mean, so all of that is having a toll on that relationship. So it got to take some real love and some real trust
Yeah,
and some real
yeah.
self-control for
That's good.
that marriage and that relationship and that family to survive.
That's
Mm.
I'm
good.
talking about personal
That's
experience.
good.
My brother worked
That's
in the oil
good.
field, and his marriage after 9 years and two kids, they were separated and they're getting a divorce because he worked in
Wow.
the oil field and he's never home. So
Wow.
basically, the mom felt like a single mother.
Mm.
Because every time her friends invite her and her kids, my brother's always gone to work. So long distance relationship is not about somebody else living in another country. It
Mm-hmm.
could be someone working in the oil field. They're not even looking for
Or
somebody
the
else, but they're
military.
married.
Right.
And that relationship is struggling. So there's lots
Same thing
they
with the
have to do.
military too. Military, same thing.
And there are a lot of
Yeah.
corporate
Absolutely.
jobs like that.
Oh,
There are people
absolutely.
who have corporate level businesses that require them to travel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They manage properties in multiple
Right.
states.
Right.
So, and again, it goes way back to the beginning of what I was saying. We've got to learn to count up the cost as a mature people
Absolutely.
so that
Absolutely.
we build a culture within our own lineage that our children can understand that somebody's got to have some integrity. Somebody's got to
Right.
be honest.
Right.
Somebody's got to be discerning. We've got to be more trusting. But if you don't have God in it, all of this stuff we're talking about
Right.
is
It's
totally
nothing.
oblivious to the
Won't work
reality
out.
of a healthy relationship.
Right.
Right.
That's
Because
true.
people will jump in court for a divorce quicker than they will jump in court for getting a license for marriage.
Right.
There
Absolutely.
are people who, if you're going to build a long distance relationship, again, what is the end goal? And if
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
you're in a relationship that requires travel and constant distance, have you counted up the cost for that? You can't
Right.
be a lonely, needy person
Right.
who is trying to hold on to somebody just because they finally got money. Because I've heard women in my women's sessions, they want a man who's got all this money and has all these tangible things. But do you understand what it took for him to get
To
that?
get that
And
stuff.
to
That's
Right.
right.
maintain
Disney.
Sacrifice, loss
to
of
have
time.
property
Right.
in multiple places. My
Right.
stepmom, who I love, just like I love my mom, she understands when Charles leaves, he's gone and he'll be back. The
Mm.
love that they've shared and the love language that Charles Dixon talked about is the thing that keeps them together. A lot of times people don't look at what it takes to stay together. They look too quickly at
Yeah.
how we can end, just get over it
Right.
and move on.
And
Right.
that's where
Absolutely.
it comes to the point where the Bible talks when God talks about the only reason why a man and a woman should be married is on the grounds of love, because love bear all things, endure all things, forgive all things, and love never fail, which means love never die. It's real. And
Right.
a lot of people are getting relationship where there is, like I tell people all the time, I say people mistaking deep likeness for love. Okay,
Right. Right.
you can always say I dislike a person,
Congratulations.
but you can never say I dislove a person.
So
Okay?
true.
So when somebody say I don't love you anymore, they never love you from the
In the
beginning
first place. Right.
because they only deeply like you, so it felt like they love you.
Mm.
Because there's no way you can
Infatuation.
say that you love someone at the end of the day you tell them I don't love you anymore. You never did love them from the beginning.
In the first
That
place.
was
Right.
only deep likeness because
Mm.
deep likeness is almost identical to love. But there are certain situations that would separate deep likeness and love when you need that person to really be there for you. And
Right.
that's your only hope. And that person is there for you no matter what. They'll
Mm-hmm.
hold you down. That's when you know that is real love. Deep likeness will walk away. Deep likeness will start to resent you. Deep likeness will hold grudge. You know,
Mhm.
deep likeness will hate you. But when
Mm.
someone loves you, they go all the way, 100%.
Yes.
There is no
Yes.
gap in between. I'm telling you,
That's
and a
because
lot of
most people don't
relationships
fall into
is
love; they
failed
fall into lust.
because of lack of
Correct.
love.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Can
You
I
know,
can I add
when
a
when a
dynamic?
person when a
Where's Bruce?
person When a
I'm sorry.
Bruce,
person,
Who's going?
Bruce,
Go
go
ahead, Bruce,
ahead.
they was
real
in
quick.
you up.
go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You know how I am, Janet. You know,
I do. I
listen,
do.
listen. If I hear about a tsunami or
Mhm.
earthquake in Japan
Mhm.
on the news and 20,000 people died, I'm going to be moved about that dynamic for about 3 seconds. And then I'm going on about my life.
Mm.
Why? Because that's not my world.
Mm.
That's way over in Japan. I'm in America.
That's good.
My mind, you know how the book says it is with the mind we serve the Lord.
That's right.
Mm.
That's what he said.
My world, Bruce's world, consists of everything in the fullness of it that I interact with.
Mm.
That's my world. Those are the things that affect me.
Mhm.
If you are not living in my world because you live in Canada or you live in wherever, we
Mm.
are conducting this quote unquote relationship in theory.
That's good.
In
That's good.
theory, in
Yeah, that's really good.
principled objectivity, because you are not in my world, sister. I'm sorry.
Wow.
And one of the differences that we deal with is that because women are so relational, man. I'm listening to you guys. It's a beautiful conversation. I'm listening to you guys speak woman language.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys have to understand the diversity and the simplicity of the male psyche.
Right.
Look, baby, you ain't here.
Mm.
You ain't here.
Right.
Mm.
It ain't that deep.
Mm.
We don't need a fresh anointing to understand this, girl. You ain't here.
Mm.
I am going to, if the first question that I'm asking myself the entire time at the foundation of us meeting and talking to each other is, girl, as fine as you are, why you don't have no man from down there
Mm.
in
Mm.
your world?
Mm.
You live in Israel, or you live in Connecticut, as fine as you are, what is it in your world
Wow.
that hasn't brought that dynamic to you there?
Wow.
The whole
That's
and
good.
they
dynamic of
returned
God
and
has your
returned.
man on the East Coast, and God is putting your man together on the East Coast. That's foolishness. That's
Speak on
foolishness.
it.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but it's foolishness.
Right.
First, when it comes to them principles of attraction, what is it in your world, in your environment, that hasn't pulled that to you?
Mm.
In your world. And typically, there is a philosophy why that hasn't. For example, CC said, hey, I prefer dealing with out of town because this is my philosophy. She broke down her philosophy at the beginning of the show of why she prefers to date out of town.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, she is locked in that philosophy. So we can't put the God will prepare your man. We can't put that dynamic into what she feels. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we follow, or how can we build and expect this level of godly integrity and this godly honesty and all this stuff when the philosophy that's built in
Right.
your desire,
Mm-hmm.
woman, the philosophy that's built in your desire, woman, totally contradicts the success of that.
Wow.
Therefore, you have to be patient. If you're dealing with somebody that lives out of town,
Yeah.
Right.
you got to be patient. You have to think on the good things, the good report. You don't have time to sit and think, oh, well,
That's
when is he
true.
sleeping with somebody?
That's
No,
true.
you don't have
That's
time for
Nobody
that.
got time for
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Positive.
And the thing is, and I love what you said, Bruce, because there are people don't study the Bible correctly. If you look at a lot of people say that to be equally yoked, we've got to be this twin. There are so many success stories in the Bible about people who married from different cultures.
Right.
That's
We
right.
want to
Amen
be
to
stuck
that.
in the mind.
And
That's why
traveling.
I
That is
often
true.
shun people. People say, well, long distance relationships don't work. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
The Bible gives us tons of examples how
Very
people who one lived in this country, well, another one lived in that country,
Amen.
they came
Right.
together, they built a legacy that led all the way up to the birth of Christ.
What
Mm.
about Isaac, the story
So
of
you
Isaac?
cannot discredit the long distance relationship as has been the tradition of our African American culture, because we've been told something that we haven't
That's
studied.
it. That's it.
And if you
That's
study it and rightly divide it, you'll actually find that if all of me comes together with all of you, we have all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And our minds are so small. I say it all the time. If I were with, and my personal struggle has been that the people in my community, I get hit on every day by every level. And sometimes it's aggravating, sometimes it's flattering, sometimes it's cute, sometimes it's like, you ain't got no life.
Annoying.
But at the end of the day, I see the same spirit locally that I don't want to deal with. I don't need a needy man,
Amen.
because I don't need the head of my house to turn me into the head of the house.
That's
I
right.
need the head of the house to decide. If you say, baby, we're going out to dinner, fine. Don't ask me where I want to go. Tell me where we're going.
My mind.
Preacher, the dynamic that you are speaking of, the dynamic, which I respect, I'm not cutting you, I want to add to what you're saying, but I want to contrast what you are saying.
My mind.
All of that is very, very well respected, but it sounds like your philosophy and many other women's philosophies are the philosophies that guide the process.
Huh?
In other words, making it simple, the way y'all think puts you guys in the driver's seat. This is how I want it. This is what I want. This is how I want it. This is what I want. So that philosophy is not wrong. It's not a right or wrong thing. But I am saying that you have to have a philosophy and an understanding that's built into the construct of a long distance relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
It has to flow together.
Basically being flexible.
You said it,
That's
Bruce.
You got to be
You got to
flexible.
be patient.
I
You
think
can't.
the
You
reason
cannot
why
step into.
So many
You
people
cannot
want that
step
long
into
distance and
a
don't have
mixed
patience.
martial artist. You can't step into a mixed martial artist ring with boxing gloves on.
Right.
That's right.
The philosophies of the dynamic don't match. So if you're gonna say, "Hey, I want a long distance relationship," it's okay. We're gonna try to make this thing work. We're gonna have to gear our perspectives to what is realistic about it and what's not realistic about it. If that makes any sense.
Oh, you're
Yes,
right.
it does.
well,
It
I
really
will
does.
And
say
it goes to
I
what you
move,
said.
with the
Can
way
I
I
say
move, I'll
something?
say this and I'll be quiet for a second. I'll be quiet as I say this really quickly. The way I move, I will drive a woman crazy that lives in another town that's interested in me if she does not have that patience.
Mhm.
I will drive her mind crazy. Because in my world, remember how they say out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
Yep.
And the older we get and the more full our abundant lives become, especially if you in Christ like that and you doing something, you're
Right.
doing something.
Right.
You are gonna be, your vision is gonna have you so occupied
Yes.
that if that sister does not have that patience, it's gonna drive her crazy.
Mhm.
And that's
And
the realistic thing about it.
And
so
I
real
think the
quick,
problem.
realistic
Can
children.
so Arnell,
can I say
Arnell,
something?
I'll let you speak
Now,
and then we'll get ready to hone it in. I'll let you go ahead and speak.
Okay, I think the problem that a lot of relationship is having is because there's way too many rules. Everybody have a
There
lot
you
of
go.
rules when it comes to relationship, and it should just be a simple thing where two people love each other and want to experience one another and want to commit and stay loyal and honest instead of all these rules. And these rules are the reason why a lot of people are having problems, because when one person comes with that sheet of paper of rules, that doesn't
Right.
apply to you. When the other person comes with that on the set of rules, that doesn't apply to you. Like, I had a friend of mine who was having issue with her boyfriend, and I said to her, you know what, you saying another thing and I haven't heard from the guy yet on what he thinks about you. Why don't the both of you sit down, You write everything you like about him and everything you dislike about him, and let him write everything he likes about you and everything he dislikes about you, and see if you can work on the problem too, and he can work on his. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody come with so much rules, it bring
Right.
limitation to the relationship. Instead
Right.
of
Yeah.
the relationship
Big time.
flowing, it's like a river that has a lot of rock in it. So instead of that river just flowing forward,
Yeah.
it starts to turn into a lagoon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
the
yeah.
lagoon develop quicksand because there's no
Yeah.
flow of the river.
Right.
Good. Good.
Right.
And everybody know what quicksand is. When
Right.
there's
Yeah.
quicksand, you're gonna slowly sink in until you die. And
Right.
that's how a lot of relationships are because
That's
of the
good.
rules that in relationship. People got
Wow.
too many rules. They
Yeah.
should just allow one another to be happy, enjoy each
Right.
other company,
Right.
enjoy the romance, and appreciate the person's existence. Because you
Right.
know what? With all the
There you go.
rules, the
That's good.
person cannot apply by all that rules for the rest of their life because you don't even know how long the person got to live. The person
Right.
will be with you for this second and they're gone the next second. And then you're
That's
going to
true.
say, oh,
Very
I
true.
really wish that I didn't make life so difficult for them. I could have get to know them more.
Right.
So
Right.
people set too much rules in relationship and it brings that difficult personality to the relationship.
That's good.
And on that note, what
Wonderful.
you're saying, yeah, that was good stuff. Well said. On that note, at the end of the day, blessings are catered to the open. So, if you be open, be fair, be non-judgmental, be non-critical. And trust me, if you're open, that's the best posture for God to place anything in your life. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Absolutely.
right.
So then,
That's
and if,
true.
if you're if you're in a relationship currently long distance, you have to do the check-in. I don't care if
Right.
it's 2 weeks, a month. You need to ask the person one simple question: do you still believe? If they don't believe, you don't need to carry on. You just need to know, do you believe in us? If you don't, at this
That's
rate,
right.
let's be realistic. And if you don't believe in, let's just be nice and be well with it and move on. Because, like I said, like you all said, Dr. Janet, she about ready to fight. At the end of the day, Dr. Janet said,
No, no, no,
y'all
no.
know,
Just pass
Me
it.
too. Me too, Charles. I admit.
y'all getting mad. Look, she said, you know what, he needs to be long distance. Y'all ain't playing around. So at the end of the day, I am admonishing the women to be open. Don't hinder your
Amen.
blessing by being closed.
That's right.
Open. You don't know.
Like,
You don't know what package, in what area, in which realm or territory your blessing is going to come in. And
amen.
Dr.
I'm a
Jan,
witness to that. I'm from
yes,
Africa, okay?
yes,
And my
yes.
husband's from Mexico.
Oh
So
wow.
see the difference in the gap. I'm from West
Yeah,
Africa, west of Africa, and my
yeah,
husband is from Mexico. So
right.
I could say, you know what? Maybe my husband was in Africa, but no, that's not where my husband was. My
Yeah,
husband was in
There you
Mexico.
go.
A
That's
lot of
good.
and,
people want to date
That's
within the
good.
race. They say, oh,
right.
because I'm black, I want to date a black man. Or
Yeah,
because I'm white, I want to date a white person. No, you have to keep your mind open. And if love is somewhere else, you better go get it. My
yeah,
love was in Mexico. And yeah, my husband is Mexican and I'm
yeah.
African. And we have a good life. I love his food. He loves my food. And we just have a beautiful mixture of culture and
Awesome,
music and
awesome,
everything.
Good.
awesome.
You
Yeah.
know, we appreciate what we have.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
And
I was,
Bruce
if I
brought up
could
the
say,
good point. Oh, go ahead, Doc, real quick. Go ahead, Dr. James. Go ahead.
you know, it all boils down to this, really, if we can be honest. Relationship is progressive. It's
Yeah,
progressive.
Yes.
And it takes on direction, as you go on. The longer you're in a relationship, that's how you know what direction that it's going in. And I think a lot of times we want to take on direction too soon in the relationship. We really don't know where we're at. We're in a wilderness, but we want to make it a definite, address. We want to put a title on it. And I believe that if we take our time, and of course, no one's perfect, and there are going to be some things that you don't like about me, and there are going to be some things that I don't like about you.
yeah,
But
yeah,
we need to have grace. We need to give one another grace. I had a
Yes.
situation, and the person said, "Well, why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you say anything?" I said, "Because I gave you grace. I didn't want that situation to mess up our relationship because I knew it was just a situation."
That's
And
yeah,
good.
so we have
That's
to learn
good.
how to not take so many things and then determine the direction of the relationship when we're getting to know each other. We're getting to know each other's dislikes and each other's likes. And in
right.
that, we have to learn how to say, "Hey, I'm going to give you grace on this because I feel like it's worth it. It's worth it because I want to know you."
Yes. You guys, I want to say you guys all did an awesome job tonight. I want to thank all of y'all on behalf of P Coffee and myself. Thank you all for your great contribution. Now, I will tell you this. I want to do this again on another topic with this crew here. This is a good, this is a good forward moving group here. This is great. And we got Mr. Jason, to shake up the pot. Bruce gonna douse the fire. That's gonna be it. Karen gonna preach to it. Dr. Janet gonna fuss. And now Arnell is gonna keep it fun, all the way from Africa. That's gonna be it. No, I'm just joking. But anyway, no, this is gonna be awesome going forward. This is a movement that we're doing. I don't know if you guys realize this, but this is really like a movement seed being birthed here in all of our lives. And so we all have to embrace it and go out and be Marvel heroes on love, right? That's what it's about. So at the end of the day, we appreciate you guys for coming out tonight. And even our people in Facebook land that took the time to kind of ride with us over time, we sorry, but we want to give everybody a little just due to talk. So please forgive us on that note. And next week, we'll be back with something else just as captivating, and just who knows, few of you all may get some invites. We'll see. Depends on you guys' busy schedule. But we'll go from there, and we'll take it from there. Any? How about this? 2-second goodbyes, y'all, real quick. Go on, Bruce. About what you get go home on.
Dr. Janet, it was wonderful seeing you.
You as well. You as well, Bruce.
What's his name? Arnell?
Yeah.
Yes.
Arnell. How do we get your book?
It's gonna be on Amazon, Google Books, Kindle, Kobo, all those places. It's coming out in June.
Okay. I'll post it, Bruce. If she posts it on her page, I'll share it with everybody. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say, and just for everybody to be patient and to know that things take place in God's time. Yeah. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Just be patient.
Right.
Sometimes there is a pause. Work through the pauses. That's
Good
it.
stuff. Next.
That's all I got.
Jason?
Yeah. Actually, I want to say, hey, it's good being with everybody once again, man. I really appreciate it. Thank y'all for having me on. I'm happy my schedule opened up for it. I'm going to say this. Unless you're already in a relationship with someone before it becomes a long-distance relationship, then understand that most likely you're in a situationship and should take your time until it actually grows into an actual relationship.
Wow.
Amen.
If that makes sense.
Good stuff.
Yeah, well said.
Good, real good.
All right, CC, I see you over there pondering. Come on, CC.
I don't have a lot to say. I've said most of my, I've given most of my say on tonight. I do want to encourage people that if you want to forge into the realm of long distance, to count up the cost. Out of all we've said this evening, all we've shared as far as our experiences and our heart, if we as a people could learn to count up the cost, and I'm talking about people who are interested in any relationship, count up the cost. And if you pray and ask God to lead you, follow his lead. Don't ask for something that you will not take on.
Amen.
If you ask for it and it comes to you, receive it no matter what that package looks like. Receive it in the manner by which it comes. Because as Bruce said, if you don't have patience, and as Dr. Janet says, if you don't have armor, you will lose. And that's not, and we forget that our relationships are not constant. They're consistent. Because it could change. If that man or woman comes into a place of wealth and the dynamic of the economics of that house shifts and it turns into what Arnell described as a long distance relationship, you need to be prepared for that. We'll count up the costs.
Dr. Janet?
Yes. The thing I would say.
I love her.
I have to be very careful how I say it because I don't.
No more fighting.
Don't be scared.
No more fighting. Trying to fight. I hear it.
Don't be scared.
Oh my gosh.
Like trying to bash the men. I hear it already coming. Come on.
They're the bill.
You have to be willing to adapt to change.
Yes.
You have to be willing to live outside of the confines of what you think things should be. You have to
Okay.
be willing to give as well as take. And you have to be willing to consider. Relationship is based upon consideration. If you can't consider one another, then your relationship is bound to fail. So
Okay.
that is what I have to say.
Oh, well, I'm surprised. All right. All right. Good stuff,
Yay.
Arnell. Real quick,
And
Arnell.
I'm really glad to be on this show today. Getting to meet all of you. You all
Yeah.
have wonderful input, great minds, and
Yeah.
I really love the vibe. We all respect one another, ideas and
Yeah.
views. And I mean, we are just energetic. The energy is positive. And
Right.
for those of you that are watching this show, when it comes to relationship, just keep an open mind. Like we all say here in the group, have an open mind and don't set too much rules. Just learn to get to know each other, enjoy one another present, and having self-control in distant relationship is very important because when you have self-control, you can
Good.
control yourself, especially when it comes to that sexual need.
Right.
Then you
Right.
can control yourself for that,
Absolutely.
and loyalty, with you see, those are the things that it's like when you take a crochet pin and you take the thread, those are the things that you crochet together to make a garment or whatever
Right.
it is. It could be like a
Right.
tablecloth, whatever. But the loyalty, the commitment, the self-respect, the honesty, those are the foundation for any relationship. Every other thing is all just for nothing rules that's just gonna limit the relationship.
Right.
So I'm really glad to be on the show today, and I look forward to many more.
We'll definitely bring you back. P Coffee, quick 2 seconds. You ain't getting off.
Stay, yes, sir.
All right.
Stay in school. The school of learning your person. Stay in school.
Amen.
Mm.
Okay, and so I will say before we go, before considering a long-term relationship, make sure you are thinking right now realistic. And just measure your thoughts and measure yourself and measure your needs to make sure you are built for the trip. If not, tell the bus to go on by.
My
All right.
Amen.
All right.
All right. All right, guys. Thanks again. We sorry again, crowd. We sorry for going over long, but we wanted everybody to get their just due and speak their heart. We don't want just folks just being bodies. We want them to contribute, and that's what they did tonight. So thank you, guys. Love you all, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
All right.
Good night.
All right. Okay. So you can just hang up off of there on there. You can. All right. See y'all. All right. See y'all. You got to shut it down, Peacock. Okay.